Hi everyone, welcome back to Write Better Together. This is Peggyann Kennedy, and joining us today for Writers Wednesday are two very special guests, Dr. Doug and Jill Prey. They are both very special friends of ours, and they go to our church. And I would love to hear what y'all are doing and what y'all have written. A little bit about your books, please, if you don't
Yeah,
mind sharing.
absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, we like to write together because he does the talking and thinking, and I sit and type as fast as he's talking, and then add my input as we go along. He's really more of the creative uh, mind of it. So I'm the doer. He's the thinker.
But
That's really
the interesting part, people say, how do you find time to do any writing? Well, you don't. We don't ever find time. So what we do though is we travel a lot, and the traveling is usually business related. But when we're on the road and you're on the road 10, 12 hours a day, the conversation can kind of like get a little bit lax, and it gets boring. And so we decided back when I'd said I wanted to write a book that, well, let's do it while we're driving. So that made it really easy. So you got time, right? You got 10 hours to do whatever you want to do. So she's got a computer in her lap, and I'm driving and I'm talking and she's typing, and then we just keep putting it down and build more and more pages, and then we come back and we edit, and now what did we say? No, we can say it better this way. We can do it this way. So we've written what, two,
3 books.
3 books,
wow,
three
awesome.
books together, and then edited a couple of other books. And so, uh, and book writing, it's all in the editing. So you just put all your thoughts down, and then you go back and edit and re-edit, and so that's what we do. So we've written these books, and all while we were driving. Every bit of it was while we were driving
Mhm.
in a truck across the country.
That is really incredible. I really like what you said about editing is key and that you need to get it all down first because I
Mhm.
Hmm.
have a huge problem with like going and editing while I'm still writing. So I'll spend like 2 hours on the same sentence
Yeah.
and
Right.
then I end up not writing at all the rest of the day. But I do really like that. That's a great point. But
Yeah.
you have a really interesting job, I believe. You restore Auburn Cord or ACD cars.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
then
it's on my
and you
shirt.
that's
Uh,
cool.
Auburn Cort Duesenberg. Yeah, well, we do. We kind of live an interesting life. Jill and I've been married about 26 years now, and she's always been my, you say right hand man, but yeah, are you familiar with TV show Star Trek: The Next Generation? You ever watch it? Come on, you got to be a
I'm
Star Trek
afraid
fan.
I haven't.
Oh my
Sorry.
gosh. Okay, well, Star Trek: The Next Generation takes place on
Oh,
a spaceship, okay? And
okay.
Jean-Luc Picard is
My dog.
our dog is barking in the background. Jean-Luc Picard is the captain of the ship that is always out trying to save the universe. Well,
Okay.
anytime he figured out how to solve a problem, how to save the universe, he thinks up the idea, and then he turns to his person next to him and says, "Number one, make it so." So
Uh-huh.
Jill is my number one. So I think it up, and then number one, make it so, and then she figures out the rest of it. So in all the businesses that we have been in together, the car business is what I grew up in. It was a family business, but I went back to college in my late 30s and got a degree in biology, and then became a chiropractor. So I'm a chiropractic physician and did that for 20 years. She ran my office for 20 years. So we grew that business. So the car business, the healthcare business, and now in retirement back into the classic car business, which is Auburn's, Cords, and Duesenbergs. My dad bought the original factory in 1960 from a company in Auburn, And Auburn Automobile Company was established in 1900. So we're the oldest automobile manufacturing company in the United States still in business.
Cool.
And a lot of people have never heard of the three different cars, but Auburn Cords and Duesenbergs were pre-World War II cars, so we call them pre-war classics, and they're all today very high-end, very desirable, very expensive cars. So that was the business my dad was in. I grew up around it. Then my recently I retired, and my son bought the business from me. So now he's the president of the Auburn Cort Duesenberg Company, and
Cool.
I'm just more of an advisor out there now. So.
And two of the books that we have edited were actually authored by other different authors. They are biographies of his father. And so we edited those books for accuracy and
Right, yeah,
everything. Yeah. So that's two of the books. So
right. And then in health, then when I was in healthcare, um, I've always had a love-hate relationship with nutrition. So I wrote a nutrition book. My minor was in nutrition in college, but it was about a better way to try to lose weight, which of course this time of year all the ads are on how to lose weight and
Mm.
what can you do and this and that. Well, I studied every diet. I've been on every diet. I've gained weight. I've lost weight. And so I decided to write a book about my experience and what I thought it would take to be able to lose weight. And so we wrote the book together, and the name of the book is called "I Don't Go with Fat Boys." So that's the name of the
Okay.
book. And people say, "Why in the world did you name a nutrition book that?" And that comes from a story back when I was in the seventh grade. Actually, it started in the sixth grade. I had a good girlfriend that I was going steady with back then. I don't know if you're steady anymore. I don't probably don't even know that. So I was going steady with. Back then, we didn't have cell phones or anything. So summertime comes, and I don't even talk to her. Don't call her. I'm too scared to get on the phone and talk to a girl. But so I'm waiting for the summer to be over to get back to school so I can see my girlfriend again. And first day of school, I during recess, we're all out on the playground, and I want to go out and find Paula. So she's out on the playground, standing with two other girls, and I run up to her and I go, Paula, Paula, you want to go steady again? She looks at me and says, I don't go with fat boys.
Mm.
And that was my whole
Sorry.
my life from that point on was defined about my weight. And I really, by today's standard, I was just a chubby kid. I wasn't fat, but I've been on a weight loss up and down journey, and my mother was always fighting her weight, and so I wrote a book about my experience in trying to lose weight and how to do it nutritionally and properly, and named it "I Don't Go with Fat Boys."
well, and his theory in the book is eat God's foods. If it grew out of the ground or walked on, two legs or four,
Or how about
that
the
if God made it, eat it. If
right?
He didn't make it, if it's got stuff in it He didn't make, then don't eat it.
Oh,
Now,
that
do we
processed
follow
food.
that 100%? No,
Yeah,
but that's the
and
truth.
it's mainly a book about eat
Mm.
whole foods, and if you want to be healthy, nuts, seeds, fruits, vegetables, meat that has not been fed grain. If you eat that, you can eat all of it you want, and you won't ever be overweight, and you'll always be healthy. And so that's what the book premise is. How can I enjoy eating, eat what I want, and not gain weight? And basically, it's like all the craze right now is don't eat refined foods. Don't eat packaged foods. Eat God's foods, holy foods that, like, say, if you want olive oil, eat an olive. If you want orange juice, eat an orange. Just make it the way God grew it or made it. That's basically what that book's about.
Sure, that's awesome. So you mentioned that you were a chiropractor. Jill, I was wondering if you could tell that story that I was hoping you would tell.
Sure. It's
Yeah.
interesting because I'm a speech pathologist. And so I always worked and did that, but I also ran his offices as well. And because I had always worked in the healthcare field, when you're in the office with the doctor, you don't call him by his first name, out of respect. So I always called Doug Dr. Prey in the office. So most people did not know that we were married, until they had been around a little while. And we had an elderly lady that had injured her back. And so she was coming in like 3 times a week for a couple of weeks. And the first week she came, she liked that first appointment right after lunch. And a hint in any doctor's office, that's the best appointment of the day because they're always on time. So but we would come back from lunch and she would be sitting in the parking lot because she was early. And we'd get it out and go in, and Doug would head to his office and probably do charting, catch up on paperwork. And I would open the front desk and get her checked in. And the second week when she came in, she stood there for a minute and she looked at me and kind of quietly, she said, "Honey, can I ask you a question?" And I was like, "Sure." She said, "Does his wife and your husband know that you all go to lunch together every day?" I thought, oh
Oh
my,
my god.
I know. I said, "Yes. And as a matter of fact, they approve of it highly." And I said, "He's my husband." And she was like, "Oh my goodness, I thought I was witnessing something that shouldn't be happening and I was going to have to change doctors." And I told her, I was just like, I'm really impressed that she cared enough to ask about that. But it was funny because she had no idea.
That is a funny story.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about your other two books. What was the editing process like? Or like,
Editing it, writing the stories and the book is the easy part because you're just talking like we're talking now. So you're just remembering things, telling stories, and writing them down, and telling stories and writing them down. But then when you've got to edit, then that's hard. Everything from, does this belong in this chapter? Should it be the chapter before? Grammar, punctuation, are we doing it right? What will the audience think about it being said this way or that way? And so the editing, so let's say I literally can write a book in a long day.
Let me correct that. He can tell a book.
Okay, there we go.
I,
I can tell the story in one day.
he just talks and talks, and he's a great
So
storyteller.
there's the
So
whole
that's
book.
just,
There's the whole book laid out,
yeah.
and it took a day. Then you got to start editing and asking questions and looking up facts and dates and times. And now, was it really that year? Was it this year? Was it that month? Was it this month? Did I say it the right way? There's got to be a better way of saying it. And so we then just bounce off of each other. She'll read it and I'll go, "No, let's say it this way." And then I'll say it differently. And she goes, "No, let me add this to it." And she'll change it a little bit. So the editing, so one day telling the story for a whole book then can be another month editing it because we have spent hours upon hours upon hours editing. And the two books that were written about my father, we were major contributors in those books because it was a story about my father. So I knew what was accurate and what wasn't accurate. So the authors that wrote both of those books would put things in and I go, "No, it's not the way I remember the story. It needs to say it this way. It needs to say it that way." And so we there was four of us actually editing Dad's second book, was a true autobiography. And what he did was the author came out with a tape recorder and he just told all his stories and she recorded them and then she went and wrote them into a made it into a book. And then we looked at the book and go, "Okay, no, this really happened here. You should say it differently here." And so we spent hours upon hours just editing, which is everything. I mean, that's with TV or with movies. I've been on a lot of different TV shows and such, and when I see them after they've done the show or the editing, and they air, the editing makes or breaks. I've been on the show American Pickers 4 different times. Well, I know how they recorded the shows, and I became friends with the producers, and I would see their final product, knowing with what they started with all the rough cuts. And so 8 hours of filming would end up in 30-minute TV show. And they go, oh, they did a great job. They got the story out. They got all the main points. And the American Pickers TV show has done a really, really good job when they've done filming at our place. Well, we had another company that came down and wanted to make a 30-minute TV series. And so again, all the rough footage, they spent weeks there getting all the rough footage. And then they said, okay, it's going to go into editing. We'll send you the final copies to see what you think about it. So I get the final copy, and I look at it, and I'm just shaking my head the whole time. They filmed for hours and hours and hours, but in the editing, it wasn't cohesive. Nothing connected. It wasn't any good.
Mm-hmm.
And the show never got picked up by any studios or anything. And the reason is editing was not very good. And so it's the same thing in writing a book, or if you're writing a movie or a TV show. When I see the Academy Award for editing, I know how important that is. If you got an Academy Award for editing, because that's the make or break of any good story. And so that's what we did. We edit, and re-edit until we know it's polished where we think people would enjoy it.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. What was it like being on a TV set like that?
Well, we could talk about that for a long time. So yeah, it's I've been interviewed off and on over the years, and I've been a public speaker, and so I public forum. I've spoken about the classic car world, and I've been invited to different schools and colleges and car clubs to talk about the classic car business. I've been invited all over the country to talk about healthcare and weight loss, and then I've also even done a little bit of preaching where I get up and talk about how little I know about the Bible. So public speaking, I've always been comfortable with, and my dad was a gifted public speaker. But when uh, when the biggest show we did was the American Pickers TV show, which is on the History Channel, and I think it's in its 15th year now. Well, if your audience or if you're not familiar with the show, American Pickers is just a couple of guys traveling the country buying antiques. And so they go all over the country, and I was sitting in the office one day at what we call our factory, where we restore and build the cars. And a guy came in and said uh, that I had known, and he said, "Show me around. Haven't seen you in 10 years." And he was kind of an antique collector, and I've always been an antique collector. And I showed him around, and he said, "What do you think about the American Pickers TV show?" And I said, "Yeah, I like it. I watched it. I was really intrigued." And he said, "Well, do you think it was real?" And I said, "Well, I'm assuming it was real." And he said, "Well, uh, I've been asked to scout out places in Oklahoma to do an American Pickers TV show on, buying collectibles and antiques. And they said, would you sell stuff?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll sell almost anything." And they said, "Okay, somebody will call you." Well, a week or so later, a gentleman shows up with a business card that says Picker Scout. And he spent the whole day with the camera, and I showed him around the place taking pictures. "Will you sell that? Will you sell this? Will you sell that? Will you sell this?" And I said, "Sure, it's all for sale." Then he left. He said, "Well, we're deciding if we're going to film here or where in Oklahoma we're going to film." So a month went by and I didn't hear from anybody. So I think, well, I didn't make the cut. The story's not interesting enough or whatever. And About a month later, a producer called, said, one of the producers for American Pickers. Congratulations, you're our number one pick in the state of Oklahoma. And I, oh, well, great. And they said, we're going to be there at the end of July and August and to film an episode for the History Channel. I said, sure, that sounds great. Well, sure enough, at like the last day of July, 105 degrees outside, um, they show up. Well, it's like you see the TV show, you see Mike and Frank, two gentlemen, and then they come in to buy from whoever they're going to buy from. So the whole show was Mike, Frank, and me. Well, when they show up, uh, it was Mike. He came separately from Frank. He's in the truck that you see on the show. Frank comes in a taxi. Uh, a motorhome shows up, three other vans, and about 8 people, producers and sound men and all this stuff. So 8 people, this whole crew. We started at 8 o'clock in the morning, and Mike was the last one to leave at 8 o'clock that night. So 12 hours of constant filming, and they for a 30-minute show. So it was all the stories involved in doing all that. And again, they can make that story a dozen different ways. So in the editing, they could lead the audience however they wanted to lead them. They did an exceptionally good job. They made it about my father, about the history of the company. And people said, did they really buy that from you? Is it real? And I could say, yeah, it's real. I mean, there was no script. They were just like us. We're sitting here talking. They're talking and say, well, how much do you want for that? Will you sell it? And then the stories come up, and it was really a good experience. And what was interesting about that first experience on that TV show, it was not that long after my father had passed away and I took over the company. And the company didn't have even a website. Dad didn't even have a cell phone. And this was only 15 years ago. He was still living in the 1950s or 60s, I guess. But um, he said, you got to be ready for people calling you, wanting to do business or buy from you. And I said, well, I had just taken over the business and there were no employees. And we said, let's see if we can keep the legacy alive that my dad had created. And so we uh, said, well, I don't have a website. So Jill and I, while we were driving, I said, well, let's come up with a name. Let's build a website. So while we're driving, we start this little Mickey Mouse website because we're not on search engines anywhere. Even though we've been in business since 1900, there's no social media. There's nothing going on with us.
There was no internet presence at all for it
Zero.
because his
That
dad
doesn't
just
seem
didn't do
right.
that.
Yeah, like my dad
Yeah.
said, I don't need that. He said, I've got the same phone number since 1960. Everybody knows these cars, knows me, so why do I need all that? Well, we got this little website, and then we did a Google search to see where we were on the search engine. You know, page one, page two. No, not page 50. I mean, we brand new, right? Even though we're an old company, no. The so Mike Wolf, the star of the TV show, said, well, you need to be ready because people will be calling. And I said, well, they won't even be able to find me because if you Google me, uh, I'm not there. And he goes, oh, no, they'll find you. He said, so just be ready. T-shirts to sell, hats, belt buckles, whatever it might be with your company name, Auburn Cort Duesenberg Company on it. He says they'll find you. Well, they filmed the show at the end of July, and it aired on national TV on the History Channel about 60 days later. Well, we had a big watch party at a local pub. We had 100 people showed up, and all the news people in Tulsa showed up. And we're having the watch party of this Tulsa uh, classic car dealer being on American Picker. So it was a big deal. And so, we're watching the show, blah, blah, blah. Okay, are we really going to get phone calls, or how people are going to find us? So with zero presence, not even on page 50 of any search engine, by the end of the week, we had over 35,000 hits on our website. We moved from page 50 to page one, and not just page one, number one on page one. And
Awesome.
ever since then, we've stayed one, two, or three on top of the search engines ever since. And people said, "Oh, you sold stuff too cheap. Why did you sell it that cheap?" And I said, "Well, the amount of business I did after that show, I could have given everything away because the publicity was unbelievable." And what it really did for us was we have quite a few of these cars are in Europe and even in Australia and New Zealand, but all over Europe. The cars back in the 30s were there. Well, anybody in Europe that has an Auburn Cort Duesenberg simply would go to Google and Google Auburn Cort Duesenberg. Well, I would have never shown up, but after that show, I show up number one. So I get the phone call. I need to buy parts. I want to sell my car. I want to buy a car. And I go, oh, okay, here's some business. So it really turned into an extreme accelerator for regenerating the business. And now we were down to basically just me and maybe a part-time employee to we have 50 full-time, 15 full-time technicians, some of the best in the world. We're the number one supplier and seller of Auburn Cort Duesenberg parts in the world. And so we buy and sell Auburn Cort and Duesenberg. We sell parts, we restore cars for people, we service cars for people. And from that one little TV show, it's built into this great business again with this big name. And they said, American Picker said, we don't go back to a place more than once. I mean, they don't come a second time. Well, they came a second time a few years later. They came a third time, and they came a fourth time. And all four shows were different. And again, I got to compliment the editing from the production company that did that TV show. And so, and then the show's rerun now all the time. And I always know when the show's rerun because you can look at the analytics online and you'll see a boost. If the show reruns, we'll get 1,500 hits right after the show. So anyway, yeah, it's so being on TV really good for business. Huge audience, and that's one thing that. And I won't get the numbers right, but when I talked to Mike about the show when I first met him, he made it all up from scratch himself. He was just a dealer and he's got a neat story on how he got into the buying and selling. But he said, what you want to really be ready for is not the products that he's selling or I'm selling. It's the ancillary products, the t-shirts and the hats and the belt buckles that people are going to want. And he says, you'll make more money on that than you do on your actual business. But his audience, he was told, he said he spent 1 year chasing the production companies to see if they would produce his idea of this American Picker show, which he named. And he said for a year they couldn't sell it, but after a year he was able to finally. He hired another production company. He got the History Channel said, "Okay, we'll do 5 shows," and they said that if you get this certain share of the market, then we'll do more shows. Well, it did like 4 times what they said they needed. And so it was a big hit. Been on 15 years, and I've been on it for 4 years now.
That's incredible.
So you can see Doug is a great storyteller. And that's exactly how we write books. Because, and I think one thing that is a gift is that he will tell the story of memories or an adventure. We have a book in our head that will probably be our next book, and it's all of our travel adventures because we don't make a trip anywhere that we don't come back with like a crazy story that happened. Um, and he'll tell the story and I'll be writing it down, and he has a gift of thinking about that. So it's not like you're creating a novel and having to come up with the whole plot and all that. It's storytelling is how we write. And
Yeah, and it is an adventure. I've heard
yeah.
all the stories of my dad's adventures growing up, and we have some friends that we came back from a trip not too long ago, and we went out to dinner with them, and they said, "Okay, what story do you have to tell us?"
Yeah.
And it's like, well, okay, here it goes. We got another one
Yeah.
from how the truck broke down
Yeah.
1,000 miles from nowhere, and we had to
Yeah.
figure out how to get home, and so
One story that it just a little piece of it that is really pretty neat because it shows how God shows up in everything that you're doing. We had his diesel truck and we were pulling a trailer with a car in it, and all of a sudden we go up this little incline and the engine just stops, completely stops, and it's like what? And as we come over the hill, there's an exit. And so we thought, we got to take this exit. And we curve off and we stop at the end of the exit. And the car won't, the truck won't do anything. And we looked at each other. We said, what do we do now? Okay, I think we just pray. And we turned to each other to start to pray, like, God, help us. We don't know, what comes next. And a tap, tap, tap on the car window. Doug stopped and turned around, rolled the window down, and the guy said, "Hey, do you need help?" He said, "I own a tow truck. I can help you out here."
Oh,
It's like,
that's definitely a
thank
God
you,
thing.
God. Yeah,
God is
yeah,
good all the time. All the time, God is good.
that's
yeah,
right.
yeah, and so
Yeah,
yeah, and those kind of stories just constantly, because even then he we had a trailer, we had a truck. He was able to hook the trailer on, pull it behind his tow truck, put the truck on it, towed us to town, and he said, "Well, the nearest Ford dealership is in a little town 30 miles from here. I'll drive you over there." And then those guys said, "Well, we know what's wrong with your truck. It's a fuel injector is bad, and there's no fuel injectors for 100 miles, and it's the weekend, and it'll be Monday, and there's nothing you can do about it." So there was another gentleman there in town that had a van. He says, "I'll drive you to whatever the major city was, 75 miles away, to go to the airport so you can fly home and leave your cars and trucks here." Uh, and so we headed out, and we were heading to the airport. Now that's just what it is. Trucks broke down in small town America. And then he gets a call from the car dealer that was working on our car, the garage, and he goes, "Usually you put a full set of injectors in, but," he says, "the local Ford dealer had one injector." And he says, "If you'll turn around and come back, we're all going to stay late to get your car back on the road." And so we turn around, and he says it'll be, though, a few hours still. So we come back, and it's about dinner time. Well, the guy that was his van that was just volunteering to take us into town says, "Here, pull up to my house." And he said, "We're going to go in and eat dinner." He said, "Here's the keys to the van. There's a couple of restaurants here in town. Just take my van and go enjoy yourself, and then we'll go and pick up your truck." And sure enough, here it's dark, and we go over there, and they've stayed late, and they've got the truck running, and we head back through town pulling our load, and all the people at the station where the guy had the wrecker, they're all out front waving at us goodbye, and we get up on the road and make it all the way back to Oklahoma. And there's no way that could happen. And there was just one
God is
injector
good
in a
all the
little
All the
town.
time.
time.
So
All the
those kind
time,
of
God is good.
stories,
Yeah,
and that's just one little story.
yeah.
We've got 100.
So we are going to write an adventure book next. All of
Oh,
those stories.
please do. I want to read it when it comes out. Please do.
Absolutely.
But I was wanting to know what advice would y'all give to maybe a couple who wants to write, or anyone in general who wants to write but maybe hasn't yet?
Well, the new easy way to do it is, again, just record or write your entire story, Just however it comes out, you just tell your
Just
story.
keep talking, keep talking. Don't worry about, don't get stuck on the one sentence. Keep talking, keep talking.
And then feed all that information into Chat
GPT.
GPT. And then it will take all your words and correct your grammar, put the punctuation in the right place, move things around. It's your exact same story, but now said, the way it should be said professionally. And so that is really easy to do. You want to write a book right now, just tell your story and put it all in Chat GPT, and you got a book.
I have always been his Chat GPT.
Right.
His
But
scribe.
yeah, a real author that really just wants it to be their words. My advice would be just get it all down and then go back and start reading and don't worry about it because you're going to go back and edit. And so you're going to reword it and the things you left out or the things you forgot to say, you can do that kind of in a more peaceful time or a quieter time. Your brain isn't so full trying to hold on to so much information.
Yeah, now
Yeah,
it's just
Yeah.
clean
that's
it
really
up.
good.
So Chat
Yeah.
GPT will clean it all up for you, but then you go in and re-edit and then clean it up again and then
Yeah.
again and again and again. And so you'll go over something, a paragraph, maybe a dozen times. Oh yeah, that's exactly the way I want to say
Mhm.
it. And
It
so
you kind of you get it and you're not worried about what you're saying when you get it down right. All of a sudden it's just like that's it. I don't need to work anymore on that and you can move on.
yeah, the
Yeah,
old days of writing was just you sit down with your typewriter, you got to know how to type, and you just type and you spend days and weeks and months and years just typing and writing and editing and re-editing. What used to take months, years can now be done in weeks.
Hmm.
So it's not hard to do with today's technology. Just have a story to tell your story, and then it has to be told in a way that people really get connected to it.
definitely. So thank you both for that.
Yeah.
And I actually have a few little get to know you questions if you're
Okay.
game. So first of all, if you could have the perfect sandwich, what would be on it?
Oh, I know.
The what?
Grilled cheese, lettuce, tomato, and onion.
Oh, I love grilled cheese.
But that's not his favorite.
What's
Favorite
your
sandwich?
Uh-huh.
Is the one I have to fix myself or one I can go buy?
It
either
doesn't.
one, anything in the world?
If I can go buy it, I'll get Schlossky's original
Oh, yeah.
without the onions.
He's a
Okay,
no onion, and I'm an onion
I'm all
person.
about the bread.
Yeah.
awesome. So what's a character from a book, movie, or show that you're most like and why?
Hmm.
Ooh, who I'd like to be like, but not necessarily look like.
Who's
Okay.
that?
Yeah, in fact, he just died. My hero as a kid growing up was Chuck Yeager. So
Okay.
tell me you know who Chuck Yeager is.
Chuck Yeager. I'm sorry. I'm
Chuck
so sorry.
Yeager.
You got to be old to know
so
who
so
he is.
the book and the movie, The Right Stuff.
The right
And
stuff.
he's a fighter pilot in World War II, number one ace in World War II. He was the first man to break the sound barrier.
Wow.
And so he started off as just an uneducated kid to become the greatest pilot in the world. And I fly pre-World War II airplanes and aerobatics. And so I have a real love for flying. And so Chuck Yeager was he was my hero. So his book and my hero with Chuck Yeager. And I think he died just a couple of days ago at
Oh,
90,
really?
98 years old or something. Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
But what about you, Jill?
I don't know that there's any like celebrity that I would want to, that is, I'm most like or whatever. But I love uh, Julie Andrews, Sound of Music. That's probably my favorite movie. So,
Okay.
I like her. And
Awesome.
at least in that movie, she's really sweet. So I would like to be in that.
I
So
loved her.
from the right stuff, fighter pilots, death and daring, and close calls. To one of my favorite movies though is she just Hello Dolly.
Yeah.
It's like I love musicals.
Oh,
So
yeah.
kind of two extremes.
I like musicals too. Um, so if you could be the best at anything in the world, what would it be besides writing or working on
Mhm.
cars or chiropractic?
Best in the world.
Well, I always wanted to be a gymnast.
Oh,
I know that's
cool.
weird, but yeah, I
That's
would have.
awesome. That's
I mean,
not
I
weird at
did
all.
gymnastics in, junior high school, but yeah, I was never any good at it. I really wanted to
Mine's
be.
real easy to be able to sing. I like
Oh,
just to be able to carry a tune.
Um,
If I could sing, she's got a great voice and she doesn't ever sing. And I said, if I had a good
um,
voice, I'd be singing all the time. And I always thought, you need to sing to me. She won't do it. I
oh,
cannot sing. I cannot carry a tune. I got a good ear. I know what sounds good, but I can't. If I had it all do over again and God would give me the gift of a good voice, man, I'd love to be able to sing.
he gave you some really incredible gifts, though. The gift of
I
storytelling, the gift of working
yeah.
with your hands on cars.
yeah,
Ain't
He gave you a
that's
lot.
true.
God
yeah.
gave you a lot. So, what's your favorite song?
Oh,
Yeah, lots of favorite
well,
songs.
my favorite right now is CC Winans. Your goodness is running after me.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's incredible. We at Christmas we gave each other a Christmas gift to go to Washington D.C. and see her Christmas concert,
Oh,
and it was fantastic. The whole first half of the concert was all Christmas music, and fun and celebration. Then they took an intermission, and she came back and sang praise and worship songs, Christmas hymns, and then she started singing praise and worship. And we are in the middle of Washington, D.C., 3,000 person auditorium that was probably not every single seat full, but it was pretty packed. Everybody's up, standing up, praising God. And it's just like, this is so totally unexpected. It was great. And
that's
so that's
incredible.
my favorite song right now.
Well, I've always said
Mm,
my favorite song, and it's a Christian song, is just "Amazing Grace." It's always
Yeah.
been my favorite. But to give it credit, uh, Paul McCartney, the Beatles, "Let It Be."
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like
okay.
I just love that. I just let it be. And so now there's something going on at work or something going on with the family, and they say, "Jill, just let it be." It just So that song is inspirational.
Yeah.
Sounds like the sermon a little bit from last week. Just
That's true. Just
let it,
let them. Yeah.
let
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
I've been
Yeah.
seeing that a lot in movies and TV recently, and even books. Like when somebody's doing something, and then somebody else just stops them and say, "Hey, just go let them do their thing."
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, what kind of atmosphere do you need when you're writing? Do you kind of need quiet, focus, something
No,
kind of cozy?
you just need a truck driving down the road. That's it.
I know you
Inside a
do right
Yeah.
truck,
on the
Dad.
road.
We need wheels on the ground.
That's it.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
just how we've done it. And so, yeah.
That's really awesome. So thank you both for being game to do that. And
Yeah.
thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate it. And I know our viewers do as well. It's been so fascinating to hear
Good.
you talk and share your
Yeah.
stories.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Good. Yeah.
If you,
We
ever,
wish you all the best. You're just awesome.
if you need
Thank
more
you.
stories, there's plenty of stories around here.
That's right.
From flying stories, church stories, car stories, truck stories. Well, I mean, we building stories. It's like I'm 72 now, and when you live to be 72, there's a whole lot that has happened that if you interview a 22-year-old, they don't have near as many years of weird things happen to them to tell stories about.
That's right.
That's true. That's very true. But thank you both.
All
And
right.
thank you all very much for watching. Please like and
Yeah.
subscribe and all that fun stuff. And don't miss our Fun Friday episode this coming Friday. And talk to you all later.
All right.
Bye.
Bye bye.